Hi, boys and girls. I'm so happy that you're with me again today. I hope that you have been having a good time every time that I read stories to you. I'm going to read another good story for you today, and then I'm going to also read some nursery rhymes for you and some fairy tales. I hope you do enjoy it. So let's start off with this wonderful book called Blessed Cats. It is written by Heidi Catherine Rabe, and it is illustrated by Angela Bearfield. This is going to be so good. Let's see what we have. Ready? Blessed are you with stripes of brown as you run the hills of in Tiber's town. Look at this. The fishermen greet you, O cat of the sea, with St. Peter's fish caught in Galilee. This is such a beautiful book and so colorful too. Like a deer by the water, you lap from the spring, till Dan, I tell you, treats a cat like a king. And it's all about the blessed cats. Quick to Capernaum, where a cat with long hair sits in the shade by a column and stare. See the pretty little cat? The white cat says hello to those who await the river of Jordan beyond the front gate. Med Sea and Red Sea, in the Dead Sea you'll float, although every kitty prefers a dry boat. Within the old city, along rows of stone, a calico kitten finds scraps on her own. The garden church cat, there's the garden church cat, and the cat near the wall, each cat is blessed, they are God's after all. Look at all the cats together. See? This is a book about blessed cats. What a beautiful story. This is lovely. It says on the back, it is likely that you will see a variety of cats on a journey through Israel. Blessed Cats introduces you to a few of the friendly faces that you may meet along the way. Heidi Catherine Rabe enjoys going for walks with her husband and playing with her cats. She has degrees in youth ministry and Christian studies. In addition to writing, Heidi likes to take pictures. Angela Bearfield is the illustrator of several books, including the Mittens and More series and Blessed Cats. She has a BA in Media Arts and Animation from the Art Institute of Colorado. Angela enjoys drawing animals and cartoons. She also loves being an auntie to her niece Samantha. So, isn't this a lovely book? I really did enjoy reading it to you. I hope you enjoyed it too. Now I'd like to read you maybe something different. How about fairy tales? Can I read you some fairy tales? In this special book that I do have a few stories. There's Rumpelstiltskin. There once was a poor miller with a beautiful daughter named Gilda. The miller often wished he could give his daughter a better place to live. One day, the miller asked the king if Gilda could work at the palace. "And why would I hire your daughter?" asked the king. "What makes her so special?" "Well," the miller replied, "she is quite beautiful, and she works very hard." The king shook his head. "I'm sorry, miller," said the king. "We have no work for her." "Wait, Gilda has a special talent," lied the miller. "She can spin straw into gold." "That is wonderful," said the king. "Bring her here right away." The miller rushed home. "You have to go to the palace," he told his daughter. "I'm afraid I've promised something impossible." The miller told Gilda about his lie. "What have I done?" cried the miller. "If the king discovers that I lied, I could be arrested." "Don't worry," said his daughter. "I will think of something." At the palace, a servant led Gilda into a room filled with straw. "Spin this into gold by morning," he said. Alone, Gilda began to cry. Just then a strange little man appeared. He asked why she was crying. "My father lied to the king," Gilda said. "Now the king wants me to spin all of his straw into gold." "That's easy," said the little man. "I will do it for you." The man said that Gilda would have to give him something in return. "Anything," cried Gilda. "You must give me your firstborn child," he said. Gilda didn't want to make such a promise, but she thought about her poor father and agreed. The little man began to work, quickly spinning the straw into spools of gold. By morning he was gone. The king was impressed with Gilda's talent and her beauty. Gilda found the king to be both handsome and kind. "I've never met someone so remarkable," said the king. "Will you be my queen?" "On one condition," said Gilda. "You must never ask me to spin straw into gold again." They were married that very day. A year later, the queen gave birth to their first child. Gilda had forgotten all about the little man and the promise she made to him. But the little man had not forgotten. He soon appeared at the castle. "I cannot give you my child," Gilda said. "Take anything else, please, but not her." "I will give you a chance to keep the child," said the man. "Guess my name tomorrow, and you'll never see me again." That night, Gilda sent messengers to search for the most unusual names in the kingdom. On the way back to the castle, a messenger heard a little man singing in the forest. "She'll never guess and I'll win this game," he sang. "Rumpelstiltskin is my name." The next day, the little man showed up before the queen once more. "Well, Queen Gilda, you have 3 guesses," he cackled. "Let me see," she said. "Is your name Bill? Fred? Perhaps Rumpelstiltskin?" Hearing his name, the little man stamped his foot angrily and ran away. He was never seen again. Did you enjoy that story? I have another one that you'll enjoy. Have you ever heard of Hansel and Gretel? That's what I'm going to read to you. In a tiny cottage at the edge of the forest, a poor woodcutter lived with his children, Hansel and Gretel. One day, the woodcutter called the children into the house. "Our cupboards are empty," he sighed. "I work hard each day, but I still do not have enough to feed us." The woodcutter said he needed help from the children. "I'm afraid I have to teach you how to hunt, fish, and gather fruit," he said. "Tomorrow we will go into the woods to start the lessons," said the woodcutter. Hansel and Gretel wanted to make their father proud. "Father is very worried," said Gretel. "We should do everything we can to help him." The next morning, Hansel and Gretel woke up very early. They set out into the woods while their father was still sound asleep. "Maybe we will find enough food for a big supper," said Hansel. Hansel had brought bread with him. He dropped a small trail of crumbs behind him as they walked. "Now we'll easily find our way back home," he said. Hansel and Gretel wandered through the woods. They saw fruit, but it was too high to reach. They saw squirrels and deer, but had no way to catch them. By afternoon, they noticed they were in the deepest, scariest part of the woods. They saw nothing familiar around them. Worst of all, their path of breadcrumbs had been eaten by birds. The children soon reached a clearing. Before them was a colorful little house. The house was covered with sweets. Hungry, the children broke pieces from the house and began to eat. Just then, an old woman came outside. "Why, are those children I see?" said the woman. "Forgive me, I'm old and cannot see very well." "Yes, we are children," said Hansel. "Well then, come inside and let me feed you," said the woman. The old woman fed the children until they were very full. "Just one more dish to make," laughed the old woman. Suddenly, she grabbed Hansel and Gretel by the ears and pulled them toward the oven door. "She's a witch!" cried Gretel. The children freed themselves from the witch's grasp and pushed her into the oven. Hansel and Gretel began to run away, but near the door they spied a chest full of treasure. They filled their pockets with jewels and gold coins. After a day of searching, the children finally found the way back to their father's cottage. The woodcutter ran to hug his children. "I've missed you both so much," he said. "I promise we'll always have enough to eat." "You're right, Father," said Hansel, showing him the treasure. "We will." The family lived happily ever after. They never went hungry again. That was a good story, wasn't it? Hansel and Gretel? How about a story about Cinderella? A beautiful girl named Cinderella lived in a big palace with her stepmother and two stepsisters. They all treated Cinderella very badly. They forced her to do all the chores. She washed the dishes, scrubbed the floors, ironed the clothes, and picked up messes left behind by her stepsisters. Sometimes the stepsisters made fun of Cinderella's plain clothes. "Look at my dress, Cinderella," said one stepsister. "I'm sure you wish that you could have such fancy things." Cinderella was never unkind to her stepsisters in return. "Yes, it is a very lovely dress," she smiled. One day a letter arrived at the house. "It's an invitation to the royal ball," cried the stepmother. She turned to Cinderella. "Too bad you can't come. You must stay home and weed the garden." The stepmother and stepsisters put on their most elegant dresses. Cinderella watched them leave. She wanted to go to the ball more than anything. She walked out to the garden and began to cry. "Why must they be so cruel?" she sniffed. "If only I could go to the royal ball too." Suddenly, a beautiful fairy appeared in the garden. "I am your fairy godmother," she said. "I'm here to make your wish come true." She waved her magic wand, and Cinderella's clothes turned into a lovely gown. Her shoes became delicate glass slippers. "Oh, thank you," laughed Cinderella. The fairy godmother smiled and waved her magic wand again. A nearby pumpkin transformed into a beautiful coach, and a pair of mice turned into a horse and driver. "Remember," said the fairy godmother, "at the stroke of midnight, the magic spell will end." Cinderella sped away in the coach. At the royal ball, the guests noticed Cinderella right away. "She is so beautiful. How graceful she is." "She must be a princess," they whispered. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters saw her arrive, but they did not recognize in her such fine clothes. The prince noticed Cinderella too. He thought she was the prettiest girl he had ever seen. He immediately asked Cinderella to dance. The prince and Cinderella danced together all night. Because they knew it, they were in love, even before they knew it. But soon the clock began to strike 12. Cinderella rushed from the prince and out the door. She left behind a single glass slipper on the castle steps. Cinderella ran all the way home. The spell was over, but she still felt very happy. The prince found the glass slipper on the steps. He vowed to find the slipper's mysterious owner. The prince visited many houses, but the slipper did not fit anyone. Finally, the prince knocked on the last door. Inside were Cinderella's mean stepsisters. They tugged and pulled, but the slipper didn't fit. Just then, Cinderella spoke. "May I try on the slipper?" she asked. The prince thought Cinderella looked familiar. She tried on the slipper and it fit. Cinderella and her prince were soon married. She never heard from her mean stepmother or her stepsisters again. Did you enjoy that one? Cinderella is probably one of my favorite stories. How about Jack and the Beanstalk? There once was a boy named Jack. Jack lived with his mother in an old house outside of town. They had very little money to buy food. In fact, their only possession was a cow. One day, Jack's mother asked him to sell the cow. "Take her to the market," she said. "We need money for food." On the way into town, a stranger asked Jack where he was going. "I'm going to sell the cow," replied Jack. "I will give you 5 magic beans for it," said the man. Jack accepted the deal at once. He ran right home and showed his mother the magic beans. "What have you done?" she cried. "We can't buy food with your silly beans." She threw the beans out the window and sent Jack to bed. The next morning, Jack could not believe his eyes. A huge beanstalk had grown from the magic beans. The beanstalk reached all the way to the clouds. Jack began to climb it. He climbed higher and higher until his house was just a speck below. Soon he found himself in the clouds. He spotted a small path leading up to an enormous castle. Maybe they have food to share with Mother and me, Jack said to himself. He followed the path up to the castle and knocked on the two tall doors. Knock, knock, knock. There was no answer, but the doors were so big that Jack could walk beneath them. He was soon inside. Inside the castle were chairs as tall as houses and tables as tall as trees. Jack heard a sound coming from the next room. He pushed his way through the thick carpet and followed the sound. Jack hardly believed his eyes. A giant was sitting at a huge table counting some gold coins. Clink, clink, clink went the coins. Jack climbed the leg of the table to get a better look. Suddenly, the giant stopped counting and looked around. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman, shouted the giant. Jack dashed under a teacup to hide. Later, the giant fell asleep. Jack quietly snatched a gold coin and ran from the castle. Jack reached the beanstalk and threw the coin down to his yard. Then he climbed down. Later, Jack went back to the castle. He saw the giant holding a hen in his lap. Lay, yelled the giant. Immediately, the hen lay a golden egg. When the giant fell asleep again, Jack snatched the hen and brought it to his mother. Still curious about the giant's treasures, Jack climbed the beanstalk once more. He found the giant laying next to a golden harp. When the giant fell asleep, Jack tried to take the harp. Suddenly, the harp began to yell. Help! Someone is stealing me! Cried the harp. The giant woke up. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I see the face of an Englishman, shouted the giant. Jack grabbed the harp and dashed out of the castle. He ran back to the beanstalk. With the giant close behind, Jack climbed down the beanstalk. He handed the harp to his mother and picked up an axe. With 3 mighty swings, Jack chopped down the beanstalk. Jack and his mother never saw the giant again. They lived happily ever after. Did you enjoy my fairy tales today? I hope you did. I had a good time too reading them. I just love to read these stories to you. Would you like to have some tea with me? Here, have some tea. We'll have a little tea party. And we'll pour a little bit of tea in here and a little bit of tea in here. And then we'll put a little bit of sugar in there, a little bit of sugar in there, and then a little bit of cream. We'll put a little bit of cream and a little bit of cream. And just stir it up really good. And there you go. And there's your tea. So I'll have tea with you. You need to see if you can find a little tea set at your house, and we can do this the next time that I come on and read stories. Maybe we can have another tea party. Wouldn't that be a lot of fun? I also love having tea parties with you. This is such a good time. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm going to put this back till next time I'm on. And there we go. You can also see me on the YouTube channel. It's called Acadiana's Mother Goose. So if you'd like to see me with reading all my other stories that I've read this past year, that's where you need to go. Have your mom or your dad bring you to YouTube and look for Acadiana's Mother Goose. And also, on one of the shows, I invited my sister. Did you know my sister is Mrs. Santa Claus? Yes, she is. So all of my books that I've read, all my shows that I've done. You'll find that on Acadiana's Mother Goose. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. I'm going to put my little tea cup right back here. And thank you so much again for a wonderful, wonderful time. And we'll see you next time, okay? Thank you. Bye. Bye.